Athens, Greece, Nashville. Woo. Oh, from Adelaide, Australia. Yeah, that's right. That is really early. My goodness. Hello from Germany. Okay, a more regular time. Hopefully you're having a good stein of beer or 5 right now. Let's see what else. Oh,
wait, are we allowed beer during this? Because I could certainly do beer during this.
You know what? I am the last to judge. If it wasn't for the fact that I forgot and I'm running late, I'd actually go ahead and make some latte art right now and have some coffee. So it's appropriate. You have a beer, I would have a coffee, but I'm that tired. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, for you guys, I guess cracking open a beer at what, 9 a.m. It's probably not the best thing midweek.
You know what? It's 5 o'clock somewhere, so it's okay.
I mean, here.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock there, exactly. So I'm okay with it, right? You know, and it'll be like back to our traveling days where nobody will judge you for drinking a beer at 9 in the morning in the airport.
Exactly, it's airport time. It's always 5 o'clock in an airport.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're good. We're good. Oh, we got a hello from India, hello from Portugal. Woo. Sorry, hi, Karen, go ahead.
No, we're good. Yeah, we're good. Denny, I just dropped you the LinkedIn Live and the YouTube Live links. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. The spaces were just I was just getting set up here. I'd love to hear where you all are joining from. I know a few folks are already chiming in and LinkedIn since I have that window open. We have some few folks from India, from Paris. Welcome. And then I just had a poll open in the Zoom to see if this is your first time joining us. So please chime in and let me know. We always like to see if you're a newcomer or if you've joined us before. Either way, we're happy to have you. So I am Doug from sunny Discovery Bay, where it's 5 o'clock, where it's always 5 o'clock. 5 p.m. in London. Some folks from Dallas, Italy. Cool. All right, well, I just have a few intro slides. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I don't have a poll, so I'm going to stop this poll for now. Looks like a lot of folks this is your first time joining us, so welcome. Hopefully you enjoy the session and you'll come back next time. We have actually a lot of upcoming sessions for the rest of this month, which I'm really excited about. So cool. Okay, I'm going to end this poll and close this for now, and I'm going to share my screen really quickly. And you can see my 1,000 tabs that I've opened, and my computer is freezing a little bit, unfortunately. Probably have too many tabs open. All right. Oh, and I just closed my slides. Okay. Here, I'm going to pass it to Simon and Denny really quickly to do brief introductions, and I'm going to get my slides back.
No problem at all. As you hunt down for your slides, welcome everybody for attending. Simon and Denny build a thing. Now, it's not a random thing. We are not going to be doing Legos today, though. Honestly, that would have been a really cool thing to go do. So, but instead, hey, you've got your set. I've got my Rocinante here. I don't know if you can tell, but I've got the Rocinante here. So yeah, no, we're good. We're good. Yeah. So instead, we're actually going to be building a data thing. Okay. So and hopefully that's exciting for everybody here. So my name is Denny Lee. I'm a developer advocate at Databricks and longtime Spark guy, and Delta Lake guy and Lakehouse guy. Even though the term's relatively new. Simon, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello. More than that? Okay. Yeah, I'm Simon Whiteley, consultant in the UK, run a company called Advancing Analytics, run a YouTube channel, which is apparently how I spend most of my time these days, talking about Spark and Databricks and Azure data-y things. And yeah, I do a lot of data lakehousey type stuff, and it's quite fun, but it can be a little bit, it's a bit complex to get started, right? There's like lots of people going, all these different tools and different features and different things. So yeah, thought we'd kind of just give it a go, build something, see how it goes.
And so one thing we want to overemphasize that we are doing this live, and part one is about data ingestion. So we're going to be ingesting some data live. So in other words, this could completely fail on us. We want to be very clear. This completely can break apart. So we do want you to chime in with your ideas too. So chime in on the definitely on the chat and Q&A in Zoom. Karen, are we going to be allowing folks to chat yet, or I forget if we're doing that or not?
People can chat. Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right, we can definitely chat. Also, there is, for those of you that are on YouTube or LinkedIn, go ahead and chime in through the messaging, the chat that's there as well. We'll do our best. I'll be the one monitoring them because Simon's the actual one with the knowledge. I'm just the talking head. That's all this is. So at least that's what the one I play on TV. So that should give you some quick context. None whatsoever. It's all on you, Simon. Everything's on you. Okay, understand that. All right.
All right, I got my slides back. So let's go through those really quickly. And if you had any doubts that this wasn't live, now hopefully this will prove to you that it is. Yay. All right. All right, so this is part one in a new series with Simon and Denny. Part one is data ingestion, and I always like sharing the links to our meetup group and our YouTube channel and our LinkedIn, because I know we have folks joining from all three different spaces. And really, I'll drop these all in the chat, but I'd love for everyone who's joining us on YouTube and LinkedIn to join our online meetup group. We have a lot of really great upcoming sessions. And if you join the group, you'll get notified exactly when we announce events. I just announced 2 this week alone. And it's also fun to join the Zoom stream as well. We try to do a few different polls and interact in the chat and so forth. So join our group and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have all of our recordings there. So I invite you to check out that. All the sessions that we run live are recorded and hosted there. We have an online meetup playlist, and we also have all of the sessions from our data and AI summits and a lot of other awesome pieces of content in there. So I invite you to check that out. So another thing, I think everybody probably notices my background. Hopefully it's matching the Data and AI Summit 2021. Registration is now open. So that's coming up in the end of May, and we'd love for you to join us there. So you can register now. I'll drop the link to register. We have 5 days with over 200 sessions of content. We're going to be hosting a couple meetups, and I'm pretty sure the two folks, Simon and Denny, who are joining us here, might make an appearance on those meetups as well. So we'd love to have you. And as we kind of go through the weeks of these online meetups, and as I get more details from the team, I'll share them with you. So if we have cool speakers announced, or different things that I think you'd be interested in, I'll share them as I get the information. So register now. Hope you'll join us there. And then quick call out. So I've plugged this a few times, but so we're running a few community lightning talk sessions, and we also have community lightning talks at our Data and AI Summit. So I'd really love to run 2 sessions leading up to Summit. And so I invite you to submit a topic. Really, it's open to what you're working on. We want to see what you're working on, and a lightning talk is about 10 to 15 minute presentation. So it's really a really great intro if you're interested in speaking and giving kind of a short, quick talk, and then we have a few minutes after for Q&A. So it's a really great way to kind of get your feet wet to giving a talk and sharing what you're working on. So we want to hear from you. And also, if you do submit a talk through that link and it's accepted, you'll receive some swag. So look out for that. I hope you'll submit your project. And with that, I'm going to stop my screen share and just do a quick poll because I'd love to reach out to you with more details on giving a lightning talk. So I'm going to quickly launch that poll for everyone on YouTube and LinkedIn. If you're interested in giving a lightning talk, I'd love to give you the information too. I'll drop the link there, but you can always reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to share the details with you. It's a quick form, just a few details, contact information, and a quick 1 or 2 sentences on what you're working on. So I'll just give that a few seconds longer. Okay, we have a few folks on Zoom that are interested in signing up to give a lightning talk, but it looks like majority are excited about attending the session and cheering on the other presenters. So that's awesome too. Cool. Well, I think I've given that long enough. So with that, I'm going to end this poll and pass it over to Simon and Denny.
Hello, hello, hello. There we go. All right. So I'll start first just to provide context before you do all the actual work. Okay, I just want to call that out. Okay, since I don't actually work here. So for starters, hi everybody. My name is Denny. We want to remind you that we are doing Build a Thing. Now I'm going to share a screen, and I'm actually going to send the link to all 3 channels, to YouTube, to LinkedIn, as well as Zoom. This is our GitHub page where everything we're going to be talking about during this series is actually going to be propped right into this GitHub page. So that way you have the latest information. Okay. So we're going to be talking about data ingestion today. Actually, that's our primary goal. But obviously that's not the end goal. We're going to actually ask you folks we're going to put a poll near the end of this particular session where we're going to ask you what areas you want us to dive into, whether it is data ingestion specific, or ETL, or Autoloader, or anything else. And as we progress the whole end-to-end pipeline from data ingestion all the way down to machine learning and BI, we're going to cover all the bases. So for those of you that are going like, hey, I'd love to go ahead and ask questions, like, for example, there's some folks who are asking about Spark Python versus Koalas versus Spark SQL, right? We're not going to answer that right, but not because we don't want to answer right now, because we just want to focus on data ingestion. But yes, as we progress down, we're going to talk about things like Koalas and Spark SQL and Python and things of that nature. Okay, so we're not going to do it right this second. Okay, so like I said, we're going to send you that link, and the end goal will be something like this. Now, it won't be this, because we're not going to be using this data set. We're actually going to be using a very different data set. But for example, here is a view of a SQL analytics dashboard. This is based on the 2014 Yellow Cab New York City taxi data set. And so basically we have like 26.9 million pickups with drop-offs. We can create cool little graphs that show us, for example, that the vast majority of the rides, the pickup from the New York City taxi, were done by credit card, and the other part would be cash, and then the rest, it is what it is. Average trip, amount payment, but then also funky things like maps. Okay, so we can dive into what's the ride sets that's actually happening within pickup location groups by rides from the airport, for example. Excuse me, sorry, that'll be allergies. All right, nevertheless, excuse me, tells you that we're live at least. Nevertheless, that we're going to be going ahead and actually building something like this live as well. Okay, so that's not what we're going to start. We're going to start on something technical, a little bit more boring, which is more on the data ingestion, but extremely important. Okay, so saying all that, let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen once I figure out how to do it. And there we go. Sorry, it moved again. And then Simon, go ahead, and once you give this a start, and I'll make sure to send the links while you start the process.
Okay. So let me share the window projector-y thing and go. How's that? Can you see a beautiful, beautiful architecture diagram?
It's gorgeous, my friend. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Cool. I mean, so this is like our first sketch, right? This is kind of what we think we're going to build. Something along those lines. It's kind of similar to what I build a lot of the time. And yeah, we'll kind of, as Denny was saying, we'll kind of take your feedback as to what extra things we should do, what we can build into it. If you're like, you know what, that sounds okay, but why don't you build that in next time? Then we'll just build that in next time and see where it goes. So that is the plan, in that we've got, essentially, we're scraping some data and we're landing it into a blob as our little starting point. That's kind of like our first step. Now we've cheated. I've gone and built this thing. There's a little bit of data factory working away in Azure, and that's like basically it's a little web scraper. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour of the thing that we're starting with. So you got this thing, OMDB, which is like the open movie database. And essentially it's kind of allowed you to kind of scrape some stuff from IMDb and kind of just call that as a little web service JSON call and say, how was that TV episode? And it brings back like IMDb ratings and information and genre and actors and all that kind of stuff. So we're just using this as kind of just a real nice, quick, open data source where we can kind of sling it to an API, give it a key, and that'll land some data. We thought that'd be a nice, different data set. It's not talking about all the pandemic and deaths in the world. It's talking about nice, happy things, how people are enjoying TV, and essentially how we're all surviving through lockdown and all of that. Yeah, fair.
I think so. I think it's extremely accurate. And then by the same token, the movies that we started off with, I don't know if you were going to cover that yet, but the movie and TV shows also will probably give you a little of view of how exactly Simon and or my brain works, which is probably not the best thing, right? It's not healthy or not good. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, that's what we can test. We can test. Once we've got things going in and going into a dashboard, we can see whose TV suggestions are actually better rated and better approved of by the rest of the world.
That's true. That's true.
That's the best taste.
Exactly. That's right. All right. Boom.
I think the common agreement will be neither of us, but it's fine.
Yeah, that's true. Neither of us could be very valid in this particular case, I have to admit. Yes.
Okay, so the thing we're not really going to go into over on our side, sitting in like my little scrappy sandbox area, is a little thing that essentially calls an API, calls the main API and says, well, that's just a little lookup to a JSON file. So I've got a little lake of my own, looking at a JSON file, getting just a list of series and going, what TV shows are we tracking? It's then doing a little for each and saying, for each TV show that we're tracking, kick off a child pipeline. And we're not going to go into all of this. And all it does is get the current list of episodes for that season. So if we've got this list and it says like Game of Thrones season 1, Game of Thrones season 8, just for some controversy, it'll just say how many episodes in each of those things. And then for each of those episodes, the little copy activity that goes off and says, calls that API, says, this is the ID, bring me back the ratings for that particular episode, and then it lands it down as a JSON file. So essentially, long story short, there's a load of stuff going on, and we end up in a blob store. Basically, the start of our story is a blob store that's just receiving data. And that, I don't know about you guys, that happens to me a lot in terms of, I'm kind of like landed at a client and like, so we get sent data. We have no control about it. We just get data landing in this bit and we need to go from there. And that's kind of what the story we're starting with. So we've got some data being delivered daily currently that says, for this list of seasons and episodes, go grab it, scrape all the data, and just dump it into a blob as JSON.
I think that makes a ton of sense. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on why Azure Data Factory for this particular process?
Yeah, so for me, sheer laziness. So if you're in Azure, it's the built-in scheduler. So if you're trying to do any kind of data pipeline, if you're trying to move data from one place to another, Data Factory is like the Azure enterprise tool to go and do that stuff. There's a few other options. I could have written a little Azure function and just written some code to call it and land it, but lazy. I could have written a logic app to go and do that, which is the same kind of thing, and it's much more lightweight. Logic apps are kind of better at understanding things like JSON and doing that stuff, but I guess kind of I tend to use Data Factory because it's better when Data Factory is better for doing long-running data processing tasks. So for this thing, when it's just doing a little web scrape thing, it's like a sledgehammer for a nut, right? But because I tend to do lots and lots of Databricks things and kicking off a job and managing that job while it runs, it makes sense to use the same tool so you can have like an end-to-end pipeline that covers everything. So I tend to use Data Factory by default because that's what I do most of my work in. I probably could have gone for something a little lazier, a little more lightweight, but yeah, it didn't take long. It's fine.
No, and by the way, in all seriousness, even though Simon is saying in jest that it's lazy, it's actually, we're developers. So yeah, we're all lazy. Let's be honest, right? We're going to code our way out of the problem and we're going to reuse what we can. And ADF is an excellent lazy way to do it in the Azure ecosystem. Right now, there's a call up from James, the best developers are lazy. Absolutely agree, 1000%. Oh, I just noticed, hi from Adi, by the way. Hey, Adi, how you doing? All right, but nevertheless, the context here is that right now we're using Azure Databricks. So if you're using Google or if you're using AWS, we're probably not going to use ADF. That would be not as optimal. But nevertheless, we are using Azure Databricks, so that's why we're going to be talking about that, using that as our starting point. So anything we want to add outside of that before we dive right into the autoloader side of the house?
So yeah, all I'll do is I'll dive and show. That means we've got thing one. So yes. I guess we should do the setup that we've done. So we had to do a little bit of setup of our Azure ecosystem to get this working.
Oh, good point. Yes.
So we've got an Azure subscription. This thing, we have our build a thing resource group that we're working from. So this is where we've got all our different bits and pieces. And again, no data factory in here. So the data factory is living on in a different tenant, and it's just delivering data as if it was some third-party thing. We're going to use thing a lot in this.
Yes. So by the way, we are freely admitting our lack of creativity when it comes to naming things. So basically, why don't we explain what some of these things are, so to provide a little context. So as Simon noted, right now we're starting off with our build a thing resource group within Azure, our Azure subscription. But it's not just about Azure Databricks, which is the build a thing -WS. WS stands for workspace. I should have actually called it AD or something else, but hey, my bad. But Simon, what's Lakey thing and thing one?
Okay, so we have storage accounts in Azure. So essentially, we've got distributed cheap storage, so we can just dump some data and work with it, right? And we've got two different types. So they're both storage accounts. But if you're building a lake, if you want to have security in a lake, you need a thing in Azure called hierarchical namespace, which is like a super fancy way of saying, I want to be able to have folder objects and they can be securable. So if you've got like normal storage in Azure, then you end up with a blob like this. So this is just a straight blob storage, and it's got some data in it, and it looks like there's folders, right? You can see Game of Thrones, you can see Season 8, blah, 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 and there's a load of data going in and landing there. But actually that whole structure, all of that stuff, it's a virtual folder. So that's part of the file name that then the browser knows to kind of pull that apart and make it look like folders. But it means I wanted to say, that department over there, you have access to this folder, whereas you can read that folder, but you can't write to that folder. I can't do that in here. I can't do that in a standard blob. So we've created two different storage accounts. One of them has hierarchical namespace, so we can use it as a lake. That's our lakey thing. One of them doesn't have hierarchical namespace. So if we go into the configuration of properties, there you go. So you can see right down the bottom, Data Lake Storage Gen 2, it has hierarchical namespace enabled, which is really confusing because loads of people go into Azure and they're like, I need to build a data lake. And then there's no option for data lake. Data lake's not a thing. It used to be. You have data lake Gen 1 was an object that you create, and that's a data lake. Now you don't have a data lake object. You just have a storage account that you flick a switch when you create it going. I want this to be hierarchical namespace enabled, which is the most long-winded way of saying, can you please make it a data lake?
Yes. And so to add exactly to Simon's point, right? So the background is that if you recall, basically, we originally started off with blob storage, right? And then it went to ADLS Gen 1, right? And which was exactly what Simon was talking about in terms of let's build a data lake versus just storage. And then we went and said, okay, now we want to actually do ADLS Gen 2, but it's a little confusing because even though it's called ADLS Gen 2, it basically is blob storage with a hierarchical namespace. So you actually have, when you go create the storage account, you actually have to click on it. And then and Simon was the one that reminded me, by the way, because I'm older, so I actually forgot some of this stuff. So Simon reminded me that I actually had to click on enable the hierarchy when I did ADLS Gen 2, because that was no longer by default. Yeah, why don't you just show it? Because,
New storage account, want to create one,
exactly.
storage account, whip through, do lots of things. It wants to know lots of things. We don't really care. Test uniqueness. That's unique. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's pretty unique. Yeah, exactly.
Goes through all of this stuff, and then hidden away in the advanced tab. So you have you can't just go straight to create. You need to go through all your settings, and then you can do that to say, I would like to make a hierarchical namespace, please.
Yes. Isn't that fun?
But it's much better in their defense, because back when they had just Data Lake Store Gen 1, and it was a separate thing. It had a different API to blob storage, and it had different hardware to blob storage. And so you couldn't get it in all of your regions, and you had to use different protocols. And if you had something built to put a file into blob store, you couldn't use that with the data lake storage. So it's so good for me running it that it's now the same thing, because you can use the same APIs, and it's a lot more in line. It's not like this weird thing that works in its completely own way. It's blob storage with some extra fancy stuff in it. Which makes sense.
Perfect. So by the way, there's some comments on LinkedIn. So let me go ahead and actually chime in for a second just to answer some of those questions. It's pretty active here on LinkedIn. So thank you for the folks that are actually going ahead and calling. But I did want to call out. Audie actually asked a great question, which I think is great for everybody to know. Can you process data from S3 with Azure Databricks? Yes, you absolutely can. Azure Databricks can definitely connect to not just blob storage or ADL's Gen 2. You can absolutely talk to S3 and absolutely talk, for that matter, Google Cloud Storage. And for that matter, if you're on AWS, you can definitely talk to the Databricks on AWS or Databricks on Google. You can absolutely talk to S3 or ADLS Gen 2 or blob storage or Google Cloud Storage, right? You can all talk to each other. The only reason why we're being very specific is because there's always the egress and ingress costs that you're going to have to take when you're talking to an external system. So for example, if you're running an Azure Databricks system that's talking to, let's just say an East US 2, and you're talking to an S3 account, right? Even if it's S3 in S3 in the East for AWS, there's still the egress cost of actually grabbing the data. So in other words, Azure Databricks has to go through the Azure network to the AWS network to actually request that for that data. So then usually there's a higher price to egress that data out. Okay, so if you're already on Azure Databricks, that's why we're saying, at least if you're doing like a one-time request, sure, why not? That's probably not that big of a deal. But if you're going to do it on a regular basis, you might want to move the data over. Okay, and that's actually for all clouds. Okay, just as a quick call out. All right, so just to provide that context, and I believe Saurabh had already answered that question on LinkedIn, so I want to give a special shout out to him because he was the one already answering a bunch of questions on LinkedIn. So thank you very much, Saurabh, for doing that. The other question I did call out that I did want to answer live before we go ahead and shift back is that for data engineering, Scala performs 10 times better than Python. Does that happen? It depends. I think maybe you may be referring to Spark, in which when you're running Spark with Scala versus Python, if you're talking about RDDs or in the case of running UDFs, that's probably true. Okay, but in the case of this day and age, when we're talking about Spark 2.x series and 3.x series, that's probably not true. It's going to be roughly running almost at exactly the same. The reason why we're saying that is because basically, from a PySpark perspective, it's just a abstraction layer to the Scala anyways. And so because of data frames and as opposed to RDDs, it's basically the same speed. Now, there is an issue when it comes to UDFs, but if you're building pandas UDFs, or some people will know them as vectorized UDFs, then bam, you're good to go, right? It'll actually go ahead and be able to be roughly the same performance as well. So we actually have a lot of good blogs that talk about that. So highly check it out. Just go to Databricks blog and look for vectorized UDFs pandas UDFs, and you'll see a lot of good info about that. Okay, so want to answer those questions live. So we're done with that. Boom. Simon, back to us. Let's go ahead and continue showing what's going on here.
Cool. Okay, so we've got our two storage accounts. So there's thing one, there's lakey thing. There's also a thingy queue, which I created when I was fixing things, and that doesn't need a thing, so we can just delete that. Let's get rid of thingy queue. We don't need thingy queue. Oh God, there's going to be so much bad typing going on. Okay, so that's going away.
It's because you're not using a mechanical keyboard, are you?
No.
Dang it!
I'm using a keyboard that's even missing keys. Ah, amazing.
See, no. See, here. You got to come to the dark side. You have to have RGB colored mechanical keyboards. Sorry, I completely digress. Go on, my friend.
All right. So we get the two other things that we got, which is Databricks, obviously. So we created a workspace. We'll step into that in a second and talk about the setup and stuff we've done in there. And we have a key vault. So if you're not using Azure too much, Key Vault's a credential store. It's essentially where we can go and store any like account keys and certificates and connection keys and all that kind of stuff in a secure, encrypted way, so that we're not hard coding any secrets in code, and we're not putting into GitHub all our secrets and stuff, which is bad. So there's a load of stuff we've pre-put in here to do with the service principal. So how we connect us out, what the ID is, what our subscription ID is, all of that good stuff. A blob key of how it can connect into that. So we'll step through when we do some autoloadery stuff. We'll kind of just talk about when we're using these things and where you get them from. But just we've set that up in advance, because watching us populate a key vault and then getting things wrong and then having to redo it, probably not that interesting to watch. It's fair.
Are you saying that we make mistakes? Is that what you're trying to imply?
I mean, we did make mistakes, and so when I was checking if everything worked, it was all wrong. I mean, no, we'd never make a mistake, and we just got this right first time because we're professionals.
Oh yeah, exactly. What are you talking about? No, we're perfect. What are you talking about?
All right. So yeah, mentioned service principal. So we have to get a service principal set up right. So that's an Active Directory application. So essentially an unattended account we can use to log in, rather than like log in as me or Denny. We can just go log in as the service principal, and then that'll go and connect to stuff. And that's most things.
Yeah, and just to add to Simon's point, basically it's an important context within security that basically you start using things like service principals or service accounts. You'll hear service accounts or IAM roles within AWS or within Google Identity, but nevertheless, whatever we call it, the premise is as opposed to logging in with yourself, like as in Simon or Denny logging in. Obviously, we want to log in as ourselves when we're doing it ourselves, but when you're running a process that you want to automate, this goes into that idea of productionized systems. Then yeah, in reality, what we really want is something like a service principal, as what Simon's showing right now, to provide that context.
Which makes sense.
Boom.
Okay, the other thing. So data. So to show you the data that's in here, the thing one data showed you that.
Absolutely. We should show just to let people know the context. So, all right, because this actually provides context also, by the way, of the shows that Simon and I like looking at, right? So just as a quick call out. Mm-hmm. So actually, we're missing some, aren't we? There you go. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, there you go. Okay, so now, to everybody that's currently watching, you're going to wonder, okay, the between these two, they're watching Burn Notice, Counterpart, Game of Thrones, Gangs of London, Killing Eve, The Expanse, and WandaVision. So, yeah. So, is there a theme here? Actually, I have no idea if there is one.
Fairly nerdy?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Fairly nerdy. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, fairly nerdy, fairly geeky.
You embrace you in a nerd, it's fine.
yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, so anyways, yes. So nevertheless, this is the data set we're working with. Later on, we're actually going to ask a poll in terms of what data you want us to join this data with, by the way, as well. So obviously, weather data would be bad, but for sake of argument, other data sets, whether it's like related to time or whatever else. But go ahead. Why don't you show the data that we have here?
Yeah, so you're going to grab one.
There you go. Thank you.
Cool.
Why don't you zoom in just a little bit so people can see? Yeah.
So I can't zoom.
That's okay.
Right. So yeah, that's a far away look of the kind of data we're talking about, and it's that kind of thing. It's the name of the episode. It's some basic information about it. It's got some rating information about it. It's got IDs to other IMDb stuff we can hook it up to. It's got a link to a poster, so we can see about doing some funky stuff about making some visualizations where you pick a thing and it pulls a poster in and something.
That's right.
And it's got a big list of like comma separated lists of actors, big pile of text to do with plot, just some data. We got some info and some things.
Yes, and I thank Simon for pulling up, of course, The Expanse, which is easily my favorite show. So I'm feeling, if it wasn't for the fact that we had to talk about data right now, I would actually just go on a diatribe about how The Expanse is easily the best book series and best show ever. But I shall stop now before Simon just shuts off my mic.
Which we can empirically test the hypothesis. I mean, it's got a 9.1 out of 10. It's pretty good.
Yes, but it's better than that. I want to call that out. It is absolutely better than that.
So how good is our data then? We can check this.
Yes.
So is it compare that 9.1 compared to Game of Thrones, the last episode of season 8, notoriously panned.
Oh yes, great idea. Yes, let's take a look at that one.
4.0. See, there we go. The data currently supports our hypothesis, so we can go with that. But it's aligning up with what we're expecting to see. That's harsh.
But it's accurate.
And note about not using dark mode in VS Code. I can switch it over for future ones, but we're not going to be in VS Code too much, so hopefully don't too worry. Okay, so right.
Yes, go ahead. Let's launch a workspace. Perfect.
And I guess when you talk about secrets.
Yes. Because
that's the one final bit of setup that we've done is inside Databricks, super zoomed out. We wanted Databricks to be able to see everything that's in that key vault. And so you've got that kind of really awkward, I want to create a Databricks, a key vault backed Databricks secret. So that we're inside our Python code, we can just write a bit of thing saying, just go and get that value from key vault without having to do like an API call or without having to write some horrible gnarly thing ourselves or just store it in code. And that's like the most stupid thing in the world. Sorry.
I feel personally offended that I wanted to write the entire thing with curl. What are you doing, man? No, I'm completely joking. As much as I love actually curl, so not curl. No, Simon is exactly right. Now, here is a secret, pun intended, on how to work with secrets. Now, being Simon, okay, sorry, let me rephrase that. Note that I'm the Databricks employee, okay? I didn't know this until about 3 days ago, where Simon showed this to me. So
this makes me sad inside.
Yes, I know. So Simon, why don't you go ahead and can you zoom in? Can this one be zoomed in by chance?
No, so I can zoom in on the actual page. I can't zoom in on the URL.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, gotcha. All right. So just in case you can't see it, okay, for everybody, basically you type in after the URL, you type in hashtag secrets /create scope. Okay, we've highlighted it. It's not doesn't show up on the administration page at all. Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, Simon. Yeah, it doesn't show up on the page at all. There's no place to click on. You actually have to add it in. I didn't know this at all. And dude, like seriously, thank you. So quick call out. Yeah.
So much of the secret stuff you do through the CLI. You know, so you got the command line interface where you can go and have a play around. You can create secrets that are Databricks backed secrets. So Databricks can see them, but it's like if we're using Data Factory and we want a Data Factory to use a password, and we want a Databricks to use the same password, and we want to share passwords across a load of different things without having to, if we cycle that password every 30 days, which we're obviously going to do for this, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We would always do that. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Come on. Yeah,
so
why would you apply such things?
Rather we do it
exactly. Yeah.
So, okay, so we do that. We give it the name of a scope. So that's going to be a builder thing scope. We've already done the bat scope. Oh, I like it.
Yes.
We've already done this. I'll show you that in a second. And then we need 2 bits of information, which is now 2 zoomed out. So you've got the DNS name, the resource ID. So they are just bits that you can go and grab from your vault. And this is probably going to be censored. So down in properties, there you go. So you got the vault URI and the vault resource ID, which is nicely blurred. Security, it's good. And
by the way, for you folks, by the way, again, Simon taught me this again. See, that's why I keep on saying he's actually doing the heavy stuff. I'm not even sure why I'm here. It's a extension, a Chrome extension called AZ-mask, like literally AZ-mask. You'll find if you just Bing it or Google it, you'll find it, and you can install it on your Chrome or onto your Edge browser. By the way, so just as a quick call out.
My internet is unstable, so if that goes, to show you guys, is that too small?
Probably make it a little bit bigger if it's possible.
Okay, how's that?
Perfect. That looks very good. Excellent.
Yeah, that's right. I've got a branded terminal.
Oh yeah, that's right. I know. So by the way, if you haven't figured out yet, I believe, Simon, do you work for Advanced Analytics? I'm not sure if you do.
I've heard that. Yeah, you know, right.
Yeah, you heard. Okay, cool.
I try and keep it fairly low key though.
Oh yeah. Because absolutely, my goodness, no, because we're not known for being loud at all. No.
Right. So Databricks CLI. So the command line interface, I've got it installed. You can see there is a one called secrets. So we can just go and check and say what secrets are there. List scopes tells me what secret scopes have already been installed on the given workspace I'm connecting to. And I've set up a profile. So I've set up a build a thing profile. So if I give it that command, that's going to connect to that workspace that we're looking at and say what scopes are in there. And there we go. So we've got build a thing scope is the one that we've already got. We can see it's key vault backed. We can see it's not obscured, but you can see it's vaulty thing of vault.azure.net. So we know that that Databricks workspace we're working on is actually properly associated to a key vault, meaning when we're writing some code, we can go to the key vault and get some stuff. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
That is all the setup.
So
I realize that's
exactly now. No, exactly. But it's actually an important call out because actually I'm noticing this from LinkedIn as well. So I wanted to reiterate this point. By doing it this way, that means your Azure Key Vault contains the secret. Okay. That not only Azure Databricks can use, but other systems can go ahead and use as well, which is really important, right? That if you build a production end-to-end system, it's great to use the CLI secrets with Databricks by itself, and that's fine. And if you are typically only doing that, that again completely makes a whole load of sense. But if you're actually going ahead and wanting to work with multiple systems, right? Then absolutely, this is where it's going to be very handy, where everything's in Key Vault. You're good to go from there, and then not a big deal. They all will use the same login, secret to be able to access. And so now your Azure Databricks, your Key Vault, whatever, your Azure Data Factor or whatever else that is using it, boom, you're good to go. And in addition to that, I just want to call out that some folks are asking questions like, will this be recorded? It is currently being recorded right now as we speak. So whether you're using the LinkedIn, your LinkedIn or YouTube, it'll be recorded in both places. For those who are using Zoom, we'll send out the YouTube link so you'll be able to see it. Boom. All right. So I think I answered that question. Anything else we want to add before we dive into this part, Simon?
Oh, I don't think that should be it.
Okay.
We've got it all set up. We've deployed all the resources. We've got some data. We've got Databricks. We've hooked Databricks, and we've put all the secrets into the key vault that we need that to see.
That's awesome.
You want to explain what Autoloader is?
Absolutely. So Autoloader is a great mechanism okay, let me go backwards a little bit. Autoloader basically makes it easy for you to load data automatically from storage directly into Databricks, okay? So basically, as data is being added into the system, we will get it, automatically load it, hence the name. Now, when you write it within Spark, basically it's typically like your spark.read, and we're going to show that code in a second. And by the way, there was a suggestion that later on that we actually have you follow along and write the code. So this particular session, we definitely didn't design it for that, but I think I believe it was Arno that said it, has suggested, yeah, following from there onwards, actually, yeah, we'll probably try to do exactly that, which is go ahead and actually provide you the code examples right from the get-go so you can code along with us, okay? But the context is basically spark.read, and then you basically specify cloud files. That little specification allows Databricks to automatically know, okay, I'm supposed to basically automatically load the data. So as the data is being pushed in from ADF, okay, in our example here, which is basically being written into cloud storage, okay, into our hierarchical store that we created. All right, that's, for the sake of argument here, we're pretending that that's actually somebody else that's maintaining that system, which is very typical of any production environment, right? That basically somebody else is running that particular system. We have no control. All we do is have access to the data from the storage point, from the hierarchical store that we just created. All right, perfect. Well, then how do we automatically load data in there as opposed to needing to schedule it or time it? Well, that's what the Autoloader is for. Autoloader basically goes ahead and takes care of that for us. So hopefully that explains it. There is a question from Kieran that was originally asked is that could we explain how the state and all that maintain and how the checkpoint works? That is a very long explanation, and so I don't think this probably makes sense in this particular venue. Though saying that, in about 3 or 4 weeks from now, we will actually have a technical details blog, actually that dives into all the details around how the autoloader works, basically how we use RocksDB to help us maintain state, what's going on in the background with the checkpoints, things of that nature, okay? How we actually make use of the various queuing mechanisms, that are involved. So there's a lot that goes into Autoloader that you won't see. So we're not going to talk too much about that today, since this is more of an introduction to building your system or building a thing. You don't necessarily need to understand all those details to build it. But at the same token, we will go ahead and actually talk about, have a blog, like I said, coming out in the next few weeks that dives into those details. So hopefully that'll answer your question better. Okay. All right, Simon, I think I've done enough of my diatribe. By all means, can you go ahead and show us where we're at?
Okay. I am worried. My internet is giving me very signs, so please see how it goes. So let's. I'll do it in here.
Oh, you're still running into internet issues right
now? I should be able to put things in here.
Okay, cool.
I think we're having a bit of a moment.
So for everybody that's online, can you hear Simon, by the way? Because I'll admit that it's a little staticky for me, so I want to make sure you guys can actually hear what we're saying. On LinkedIn or Zoom or okay, yeah, you cannot hear Simon, or he's breaking up a little bit. And all right, so yeah, all right.
Okay, I can try and fix it on my side.
Okay.
If I give you a notebook and just paste some dirt in, can you walk through like settings in cloud files, right?
Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay. How about send me the link to the notebook, and I'll see if I can present it. How's that?
Yeah.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, okay, stop sharing, Simon, if you don't mind. All right. You're sharing, buddy. You gotta stop sharing, buddy. Come on. Let's see.
Is this still good?
Apparently still trying to share. Okay. Well, at least everybody knows that this is beyond live. So and yes, I think to everybody, to James who pinged in, I think people mostly know that my Hotmail address is public. Actually, I don't know where that came from, but that's okay. All right. So, all right. Simon, why don't you start typing into the notebook right now? I believe you created the Autoloader notebook. Is that correct?
I made a quick test one. Yeah, so Autoloader is there. There we go. Okay, yes, I can finally actually see it. So let me give you some stuff.
Okay, so perfect. Why don't you go ahead and show it, because I think our connection is a lot better now. And perfect. I will present my screen. How's that? All right. So this is how we do it, ladies and gentlemen. Because Simon's internet is a little hinky, I will be presenting my screen while Simon will be speaking to it. How's that?
Good. Here we go. That works. Works for me.
Yeah, and I think to everybody that's online, are you able to hear Simon now? I think so.
Yes, sounds better.
All right. Well, this is the trick of the day. This is what's great about using Databricks. Simon can go ahead and type in, and I can present the screen. And sure, this is awesome.
I still have to do the work.
Yes, no, I'm completely not going to do the work. Oh, by the way, in case you want dark mode, you can click on View Theme Notebook, like so. You can go like this, View, and go dark. So there you go. So if you folks like dark mode, this is what dark mode looks like. Okay, so as an FYI, I'm going to go back to light mode because at some point you're going to need to put some branding back in here, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. So Do you want me to explain, or you want to explain? Sorry, since I actually, you explained it, I realized we probably only have about 5 minutes left.
Okay. As long as people can hear me, I can quickly whip through what is in there.
Yes. Go for it, please. All right.
We've got the DDUtils secrets.get. So that's I want to send something to go to a secret store, one of the scopes that's been registered, and pull back a certain thing. So in our key vault, we had subscription ID, SAS key, and we'll go through what each of these things are. Essentially, I'm just pillaging the key vault, storing those things as variables so that we can then use it in a second. So it's going off, getting a load of stuff that we need to use. I'm then building this thing up. So in Autoloader, it expects there's some configuration that we need. So essentially what it's going to do, so Autoloader behind the scenes is going to go over to our blob store. It's going to create an event grid subscription. So event grid is an Azure thing, and that's essentially a trigger. And it's going to create this thing that kind of, anytime something happens in that blob store to do with someone adding a new file, creating a record, renaming a record, that triggers an event. And so it needs to have the security. It needs to have the kind of the privileges to be able to go to that blob store and create that event grid subscription, so that it can then create these things. So it needs a service principal, and a service principal in Azure, you need to know the service principal ID. You need to know the Active Directory. You need to know which subscription and which resource group it's using. So a lot of this stuff is just kind of essentially just config so that it can go and create a thing. So I'll need a load of that information. And what it does is that trigger kind of pulls off loads of stuff and actually dumps it into a blob storage queue. And so in order for Autoloader to then read that queue, it also needs a shared access signature key. So that we've got that queue SAS key. So it's got two things. It's got a service principal that can create these file watcher objects, and it's got a queue SAS key to be able to read the results of them. And it's done that way so you can split the two up. You could, if you want, go and create all the event grid on the queues and do all that yourself, and then just have Autoloader look at that queue and just read out the list of stuff. In this case, it means we can just do everything at once. And we just go, I want you to go and create everything for me. Go nuts, which is all good. Okay, right. So next thing that we need is we can just write a data frame. So there is something a little bit hinky with Autoloader. In that Autoloader needs a subscription. Not subscription. What am I talking about? It needs a schema. So it needs a structure. It needs to be able to understand what that JSON file actually looks like before we can read it.
Thank you. I was a little confused on that one.
Okay. What? It needs a what?
Wait, what? This is you? Okay, schema. Okay.
So I wrote a quick hack when I was having to play around. So I basically just did a quick, I'm going to take just one of those JSON files. I'm going to run a quick data frame over it. And that's going to bring back just a data frame for one particular JSON file. So let's just try and run these bits and pieces. Oh, there's another bit of cheating I've done. In that I have mounted that blob store. And we can talk about mounting maybe in the next session. But essentially,
yeah, let's talk next second. Yeah.
Just rather than having to connect and give all the passwords and give it all the code each time, just said, you know what, take that entire blob store, take that ratings container, and just refer to that as mount/ratings, and then we can just explore the rest of it. So that is real simple little data frame going and saying, connect to that one file, bring that one file back, and you can see it's understood it. It's read out that JSON, it's parsed it for us, it's got the kind of the array of the ratings, it's got all those different bits and pieces, and then we're just going to cheat. So we're just going to use that as the schema that we're expecting. And it's a little annoying that Autoloader currently expects that. It wants us to give it that each time, but is what it is. It's the penalty for using Autoloader currently. So you get a load of simplicity in terms of file watching and it automatically knowing what it needs to read and all that kind of stuff. But you get a little bit of pain in that you need to tell it what the structure is up front. The plan is to be doing a lot of the coding live in the future ones, but I guess we run out of time. So I'm just pasting in some pre-made stuff. Be fine. Right, and then the final bit. So this is, I want to make a new data frame. Again, slightly bad coding, saying df, but we can figure that out. So spark.readStream, and that's kind of a whole bag of worms in itself, right? So Autoloader is streaming. So it's not a batch job. Even though we're loading data in once a day, we're now saying this is a streaming query. And the whole point of that, I mean, it is cool because you can just leave it turned on. And we might be able to try that in a second, actually. We can leave it turned on. I can kick off the pipeline to scrape the new data. That'll put new files into the blob store. And then that should update immediately because it's just a constantly running query once we've turned that on. So we've got that data frame, which has got the schema that we gave it. It's using that cloud file config. So it's taking all these options at the top, all that cloud files, the subscription ID, connection string, blah, 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 blah. It's passing all of those in as a giant pile of options. And then we can start doing some stuff with it. We're nearly there. 2 minutes. We will get some data in this. Okay, so let's just do a quick, gonna import some streaming stuff, run a query.
So as Simon is doing that, just to overemphasize, this little sample DF is Simon's fun way to do a quick sheet. So that way we have the schema, which is defined right here, okay? And all the options for the cloud file, this format for cloud file to basically use the autoloader, that's actually how we use it. This cloud file here is defined up here. Okay, so that's actually how we connect to it. So I'm just noticing some questions on LinkedIn and YouTube, so I figured I'd just chime in real quick. Okay, Simon, go for it. Oh no, this is what happens when we run things live.
Oh, well, that's not happy. Okay.
Obviously not.
Got a tool.
Well, I guess we better fix that next for the next session.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to dig into what that's doing. So failed to authenticate request, failed with the auth header. So that actually sounds like we have messed up the service principal details.
I think so. I think we messed that up. So, okay, this is not the ending that we actually were planning, but nevertheless, this is actually a good way for us to go ahead and showcase the fact that this is actually what happens in production systems when we do live demos. So for the next session, obviously we'll get that fixed. We'll actually call out what we screwed up on when it came to the service principal itself, because that's actually where we screwed it up. And the reason we actually don't mind doing this live and actually showing the script is because this, in fact, as data engineers and data scientists, this is often exactly what we run into, these type of problems. Okay, so the reality is that, yeah, sort of an anticlimactic way, but it is what it is. So Karen, please close up for today's session, so that way Simon and I can go back and cry, and we're good to go. Okay.
All right, thanks, Denny and Simon. Great session, and thanks everyone for joining us. Quick reminder that the session was recorded, and it's available on our YouTube channel. So check us out there. We have an online meetup playlist, all the content's there. And I just launched a quick poll to finish us out here on Zoom about what everyone would like to see next session. So I'm gonna give it a few more seconds for people to vote. Looks like we're getting a lot of, looks about 50% or so have voted. Surprisingly, I definitely thought enough tech show us your artistic skills like Denny's latte art would be a top contender, but not too many people are voting on it.
Thank goodness.
I'm looking forward to that session.
I know. I
you know what?
Simon does some cool pancake art. You guys don't want to see that? Everyone doesn't want to see that? All right. Well, appreciate everyone voting on the polls. Again, thanks for joining us. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Take care.
Take care.
Awesome. Thanks all.